Joe Montana here. In my football days, I knew the importance of a strong defense. Now I'm sharing how you can help defend your health against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease. Are you 50 or older like me? The CDC now recommends vaccination against pneumococcal disease. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at increased risk and over 6 times greater risk of hospitalization with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50. Schedule your appointment today at vaxassist.com.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
We will not be held responsible for any hearing impairments or damage caused to you from excessive exposure to this sound.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, if you can say that, yeah.
Well, for us, and this show almost didn't happen this week.
No, it didn't, actually.
And we can talk about why. We don't know if there's going to be a show next week or not. Yeah. And this week almost didn't happen. My team, my team, I don't own them, but my team, the San Francisco 49ers,
is playing my team.
The New England Patriots,
right,
on Sunday.
So we had a long discussion last night.
Yeah, we did. We're actually mortal enemies, so we had to we had to have a discussion on whether the week started on Sunday or whether it in fact starts on Monday. Because if the week starts on Monday, then that would be Sunday would fall into this week where our teams play, and we wouldn't be able to talk to each other.
Right.
But if the week, in fact, starts on Sunday, then it extends through Saturday, in which case we can still talk to each other basically until Sunday.
Right.
Which next Friday falls into. Therefore, depending on our moods, don't know if this show's going to happen. Basically, we're taking Bob Costa's words to heart about keeping it in perspective that this is just a game.
That's right. We are keeping it in perspective.
By the way, thank you for the San Francisco 49er Gatorade.
Hey, you know what? I'm here to help you out.
I appreciate that. I know that this would never happen next week unless, of course, your team is victorious.
Right, and then I just have to be a nice guy and do it.
Right.
Just because I'm that type of a winner that I'm not sore. Now, if I lose...
That's not true, because I would get about 4 text messages from you.
Oh, you're going to be blowing up the whole game. I'm just going to text you all game.
Yeah, and for the record, I did invite you over to drink beer and eat pizza and watch the game, but you are unable to. You had prior commitments.
Unfortunately.
Now, I do want to say something else. I noticed that you actually have kind of a smile. It's a somber day, and we'll get into that, but you actually have kind of there's a little bit of joy going on right now.
You brought me a little bit of joy.
With you.
And this is why you might be one of the greatest partners in radio, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Knowing what our topic's going to be tonight, it was hard to come into the studio. It was hard to focus. And we're going to get into that. But it was a tough day with everything that's happening in Newtown, Connecticut and all that. But then you show up, and you show up with this box of coffee. And anyone who listens to the show knows that we're both coffee fanatics.
Absolutely.
Me specifically, having grown up where I grew up on the East Coast in Boston, a Dunkin' Donuts. I lived for it. It literally ran through my veins for years back east. I used to stop 2-3 times a day.
When you come back from vacation there, you actually have to detox.
I do. It takes me a little while before I can get into regular coffee again. But we have a pod maker here in the studio, so even out here you can buy the ground in the supermarkets. It's not exactly the same.
No.
But the pods I found when I was home last time in November visiting, the pods are very close to in-store, probably as close as you can get. But you can't buy them out here. I'd have to either get them shipped out or order them direct. It's kind of, it's a whole rigmarole.
It's a big deal.
But you showed up, and you had this box of coffee pods, and they said Dunkin' Donuts.
They did.
And that actually perks me up, where I was, again, excited to do the show. Because
it's a big deal for you.
It is. And for people who don't know, even though, we're a big deal, in radio.
Huge, I would say huge, but okay.
When you have an event that happened today in Connecticut, it's really hard to be in and try to sort through facts. There's a lot we want to talk about, but to get facts together, pull it all together, it's difficult because you're emotional. Obviously very upset over what happened, and not even pales in comparison to what the victims and the families are, but it's just tough, especially in this country. I think we still have that unity as a nation. We have a lot of our differences, but during a tragedy, this country does come together really well, and it's sad that it takes that sometimes to come together. So I think the whole country's reeling, so we're no different. Contrary to what a lot of people believe, we still have a heart and emotions. So it was difficult coming in here because I knew how many times we're going to have to read how many were dead, and just all the tragedy. And then you start reading, stories of heroism. There was a janitor at one point that I read that was risking his own life, etc. So you do all that. So I was kind of dreading coming in tonight. Normally I really look forward to this show, and I just have such a great time doing the show, and we have a lot of fun, that I knew it was going to be tough. So for you, my friend, to a grand slam. That's the only thing I can compare it to. You made my evening. You made it easy for me to come to work tonight, and I can't thank you enough. This is a taste of home for me.
Well, it's my pleasure. And, these people don't really know us. They know us, and by these people, I mean listeners. I have to clarify, this is a conservative show.
Don't say Chicago.
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah. Hey, Chris Matthews, listeners, that's not code for anything. So,
go ahead.
What was that about?
Because I had a new Chris Matthews thing that I wanted to play tonight, and I'm going to see if I can find it, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, people don't realize that this especially given things that we've done in our lives, and some of the background that we have, these types of stories really, I don't want to say hit home for us, but they have an impact on both of us.
Yeah.
And a little bit different kind of impact than a lot of other people.
I think so.
And that's not better or worse, or it's just different. It is what it is. Right. And I first heard about this obviously early today. I had a very difficult day with this. This was on my mind constantly, especially as a.
Go ahead.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Especially as a parent, and we kind of had a conversation about that, but
Taxes was waiting around for your taxes to be done, which led to worrying about not getting any money back. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes in a day to get you up to $4,000 fast with a refund advance loan. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Expert filing only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Refund advance has $0 loan fees and 0% APR. Refund advance loans may be issued by First Century Bank, N.A. or WebBank. Terms apply. Subject to approval.
We will definitely get into that story. And I need to say, this is you were kind enough to share one of your beloved treasures with me, and actually made me a cup. I think this is the Dunkin'.
Sure it is. No, don't even think twice about it.
What's weird is it tastes exactly like the stuff from the Costco that I go to.
Right.
But it's good.
Hey, you know what? It's as close as you're probably going to get, and I mean that. It's as close as you're going to get while we're in studio, and that says something. That says who I really am for you.
No, but this is amazing. I now understand what all your hype and excitement about.
I'll tell you,
because this is better than where I go all the time.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. No,
I love it. Now look, my family came from Hawaii. I obviously spent a lot of time there growing up, and then
big coffee area.
Coming out here,
Kona
actually it is. I love
Hawaii.
Kona coffee.
Yeah.
Matter of fact,
there's the reason my dog's name is Kona.
There's a store. I know, huge coffee drinker.
Yeah.
There's a bakery on Oahu that makes the best malasadas ever. It's a Portuguese donut.
I've actually had them before.
Leonard's Bakery.
I haven't had Leonard's, but I've had that type of donut.
Okay.
Friends who are Portuguese.
Amazing. And I love the coffee there. So every time I go back home, I drink the coffee there at Leonard's and have some malasadas. But this, my friend, is
it's top notch. And I don't know how to.
Very good. I don't know how to explain it. Anyways,
it is top notch for me. This sounds silly, but it's like a little taste of home. This is a taste for home for me, and this is something that I taste it. And anyone who listens to the show, I'm stuck here on the left coast. I was originally from the other coast. I listen to this. I listen to this. I drink this, and it brings me home, which is great. It's fun.
No, you do listen to it, because what's weird is I've actually seen you have a conversation, just kind of mouthing words back and forth to the coffee cup every time I'm talking.
Well,
it's
a little.
You
want to get into that? I mean, it is a little weird, and I'll be the first to admit it.
I can see only one hand. I assume the other one is typing from your computer, because you're.
You see, I haven't let this go yet.
Your hand is just holding on to it. I'm not going to take it, I promise. I have my own cup, which is rapidly diminishing.
Yeah, and the only thing that you see out here, you're very limited for coffee. You have Starbucks.
Yeah, you have Pete's.
You have Pete's, which is decent. Pete's is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Starbucks, not a big fan.
Really?
I like what? I'm just not a big fan.
Really?
Yeah.
You drink it every day
because it's convenient. But now that I have pods and I can make it,
you have your own picture up in the Starbucks we go to.
Don't.
Hang on a second.
No, I told you.
And your own drink.
Some things you don't joke about. Make fun of my family. Make fun of my looks. That's all fine. Don't screw with my coffee.
How am I screwing with your coffee? You have your own drink. You have your picture, your autographed picture, by the way, with the owner or manager, whoever, I don't know.
The angry customer?
Yeah. When you walk into Starbucks, the one that we go to, it's like Norm walking into Cheers. Okay?
Well, because I'm a coffee addict, and when you're out and about, which we are, especially for the show, we're working on it all the time.
Yeah.
When I'm out and about, I don't have a choice. I have to drink it. So that's what
you have so many other choices, though.
Well, normally where we are, near the studio, it's the only one I have.
There's restaurants.
Yeah, but usually they use crappy coffee. Very rarely do you go into a restaurant, usually good Italian restaurants, a couple other, do you get a nice cup of coffee afterwards? You're like, hey, that's a decent cup.
Let's do a commercial for Dunkin'.
Okay. Take one.
Drink Dunkin' Donuts.
It is absolutely amazing. It will change your life and make you a better person and make you want to do better things. Don't stop drinking Dunkin' Donuts coffee, or you will fail miserably. This is Sackett Sean for Dunkin' Donuts.
I love it. Now, I think we need to send this in to Dunkin'. They're obviously not going to give us a dime. But
not at all, but I'm going to submit it anyhow.
I think you should. This brings me to another issue that I have. So, no, hang on a second.
I just love it when you say you have an issue because it makes me nervous.
I do. I have an issue. I'm eating this snack, and you see what it is.
I do see what it is.
Because you had some also. And I'm looking at a picture on the front, and it's a picture of what?
No, I'm just.
It's a picture.
Because now that as soon as I saw the picture, and I know where you're going.
Okay. Well, it's. I'm texting our attorney right now. I'm kidding, kind of. But there's a picture of like a white child on the front. He appears Caucasian with his little dog sitting in front of him, and I think his name is Jack. And the snack name is Cracker Jack. And I'm kind of wondering if I should be offended or not.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because we've been beaten, and actually, Rooster wrote a great article on Conservative Outcry this week about this. We've been beaten so bad by the liberals that everything...
It hurts people's feelings.
Everything hurts people's feelings. And now we're so programmed to see it because they want us to see it, that's the first thing you think of.
This is ridiculous, and the more I'm staring at it, the more offended I'm getting. My feelings are kind of hurt. I'm having some emotional distress, and I'm wondering what kind of racist would have a snack.
Apparently one with a sweet tooth that
like
he would
this.
develop a snack like that.
And why on earth would they continue to market this to white people?
Because it's damn delicious. Have you ever had Cracker Jacks?
Yeah, I'm eating it right now.
They put a prize in it.
Hey, I just opened up this prize, and you know what it is? It's a little foldy-faced person of a white guy. It's Thomas Jefferson. It's a foldy face from youth to old. And it talks about his accomplishments.
Gracious.
And
that's it. So you're officially insulted?
I'm officially. No, I don't get.
I was
Come on.
going to say, can I have the rest of your Cracker Jacks then?
Yeah, no, these are delicious. What are you talking about?
Oh man.
I mean, think about it. If it was anything else, if this was not called Cracker Jack with a picture of a Caucasian on the front, and it were named something else with a different race person on here, do you think that it would fly? I guarantee the snack name would be changed. Do you disagree?
I totally agree with what you're saying right now. I totally agree with what you're saying. You feel better now that you got that off your chest?
I do. Kinda. I needed to inject a little levity, I guess. I don't know.
So where do we even begin? It's
all right. So as everybody's aware, there was a mass murder incident, active shooter event at a school today. Do you want to go ahead and give the details? Because this is gonna spin off, and we'll just cover the details real briefly.
Yeah.
Throw it over to Sean. And the one thing that we are going to discuss, and we went round and round about this in pre-production.
Right.
As far as how we were gonna discuss this issue and pros and cons of everything, and we ultimately decided on a tactic. And there's a reason we decided on the tactic that we're going to take, and I'll let Sean get into that. But and aside from the event itself and how horrible it was, and my prayers go out to all the families of everybody who was involved. From the whole
show, everyone who works on the show,
everybody,
and our families.
Look, we're praying for everybody out there. And the thing that pissed me off second most, aside from this event, is the immediate politicizing of the event, specifically for gun control efforts. And I think this is going to be a large segment of the show that we're going to get into these things. So I'm going to throw it over to Sean to kind of touch on the events and give some of the facts and a little insight into our discussions and where we're going to go with this. And then we'll go ahead and engage in the discourse.
So at 9:40 this morning, roughly, 20-year-old Adam Lanza goes into the Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. It's about 65 miles northeast of New York City. In his possession, as we know right now, he had two pistols, believed to be a Glock and a SIG. In his car, there was a .223 Bushmaster. Walked in, believe he shot his way through the front door, shot the glass so he could reach through and open it.
Of the classroom?
Of the school itself, to gain access into the school.
But the school was locked.
The school was locked. You had from what I understand and from everything I kind of gather, you had to get buzzed in to go inside the school itself when it was not.
Because that's secure.
Right.
Obviously.
When it is not, time for school to begin or end or whatever. He began shooting. There's numerous different takes on it, from depending on what people were, but he ended up in a classroom, and as a
kindergarten classroom.
Kindergarten classroom. As a result, 20 children between the ages of 4 and 10, from what I'm being told, were killed. 6 adults, including the shooter. He committed suicide, like the coward that he is, and was, and that's what happened there. Previous to that, he killed his mother at their family home. He shot her in the face. And actually, the more I look into it, there's actually, and I don't know if this is being cleared yet or not, so don't quote me 100%, a girlfriend and a friend that are missing as well. So you have this kid who is obviously, I'm sure we'll find out as time goes on what caused him to snap. If may have been a progression, who knows? Just committed this terrible tragedy, and it was the action of one person. And again, we can't say enough for the families. It touches me personally, touches you personally, just for the ages of the children, and the fact that anyone could do this to another person or people is disgusting.
You know what? You said it with he was a coward.
Yeah,
he was a coward. He went in and he shot.
And it's a very common occurrence with active shooters.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. But he shoots kindergarten students.
Yeah,
kindergarten kids.
Zero threat.
And then takes his own life.
Right before the actual somebody who could threaten him got to him.
Yeah. You know what, you piece of trash? Why don't you come into a police station and do that? Why don't you come into a combat area and do that?
No, why don't you pick a fight with a guy who's your size?
Yeah. Why don't you come into a gun range and do that and see how many people you get?
And that's, in the Oregon shooting last week, and the same thing, completely soft target, cowardly individual, and like you said, we'll get into the active shooter aspect of it here shortly.
Well, we can touch on the active shooter aspect.
We can do that now, absolutely. This school, Oregon, Aurora, all what they consider to be soft targets.
All schools are soft targets.
Well, I'm talking even the mall in Oregon, and Aurora, Colorado, and the movie theater there. All of them are soft targets. The shooters expected little to zero resistance, especially the school. I don't know how much of a softer target you can get.
Which is weird because you wouldn't think that the active shooter would be able to bring guns to a school since it's illegal to possess a gun on school grounds.
Well, absolutely.
So that should protect everybody.
It is absolutely illegal in the state of Connecticut to possess a firearm on any school grounds. It is also illegal to transport a loaded firearm, which I believe the 223 was loaded in his mother's vehicle outside. Those two right there.
I don't understand.
Just kept the whole thing from happening. Right?
Yeah. I don't understand how that is though, because those gun laws should have stopped him from doing that.
Yeah.
Weird.
Okay. Apparently it happened.
Look, active shooter events. You have statistically in the United States, the primary targets tend to be elementary schools, universities, and shopping malls. And these individuals choose these locations because you have high number of victims or potential victims and very little or zero response in return. So the higher the body count typically, the more notoriety, the more media attention that these cowards get. So they choose these targets so that they can conduct their mass murder and not be stopped for a period of time until they either decide to take their own lives in order to prevent confrontation, which tends to be pretty common occurrence. Or unless an armed individual, like I believe it was the Westroads Mall shooting in Utah. The off-duty police officer was armed after he shot 4 or 5 people. He confronted them and stopped the violence and engaged the gunman. And eventually, he was shot and killed by the off-duty officer and another patrol officer who showed up. So these are planned events, typically.
Yeah.
They have a plan of attack. They know their target locations. This school was supposedly secure. Doors are locked. People can't get in here.
Well, and this school was known to him because his mother was a teacher there. And
was she a teacher or a volunteer?
She worked there either way. I everything I'm reading said teacher, volunteer, teacher. I saw more teachers than volunteer. It's still so early. And naturally it's an ongoing investigation, so they're not releasing all that much.
No. And then we're talking about active shooters in a general term.
Right.
So the thing that pissed me off, again, aside from the fact that this even happened, is there was an immediate politicizing of the event. And I do have to say, the president came out and gave a statement.
And I have that. We'll listen to that in a few minutes.
Which I'm very happy he came out and gave a statement and addressed the families. I was very pleased that he said he's going to do what every parent across the country is probably going to do: hug their children and hug his wife, and that their prayers went out to the families. I thought that was all very important. I was very pleased that the president made that statement. He didn't have to. He should have, and he did.
Right.
And I think it was absolutely the right thing to do.
Yeah.
There was, something in his statement that...
There was one bit of it we didn't agree on.
Right. Well, or it just kind of makes me go, okay.
Why did that have to get tossed in already?
Yeah.
And I...
Now what?
As soon as
but I don't want to detract from the fact that I'm saying, kudos to the president for coming out and making the statement and grieving. And look, he seemed genuinely shaken.
Yeah, no, I agree.
By the news of this event. And we've said it before. We believe the president to be good father, good. I don't know how he is in his marriage, but he seems to have a healthy marriage, a good.
Yeah, he seems to be a decent guy at home.
But the fact that it seemed to genuinely touch him, as it did all Americans.
Well, and I think too, and the part that we're talking about, the little bit of politicizing in there, about keeping this from happening again.
Or he made something
to that effect, and we'll play it in a little bit here. But I think it's one of those things, when it was written, it was fine, but I think he got emotional. I don't think he was necessarily, quote unquote, emotional when it was written. I'm sure he was upset. But I think when he was in the moment, he was really reading through it, and I think the gravity of the situation hit him. And you know what? I have no problem. And I saw a couple people on Twitter, a couple other places criticizing him for the speech altogether, and I said I had no problem with his emotion.
Nope.
I think it's good for people to realize that even the commander-in-chief, when something like this happens, can be moved. I did have a problem with that one statement. I thought his emotions were very real.
It seemed genuine.
And very genuine. He legitimately shed a tear on the podium, and from what I could see watching the video. So that says a lot. So, yeah, he does get kudos for that. And
absolutely.
We'll talk about the other part later. But when I was watching it, and I'm sure you did too, as soon as I saw what happened, and I turned on the TV, it's early here, but I turned on the TV and just about the time it started, when the first things started coming in, and then they threw out the number, and I think the initial number was 19 children or 17. I don't think it was quite 20 right away. And I just, you think, my God, this is awful. And
I felt sick to my stomach.
Yeah, it was horrendous. And then all of a sudden, the business side of my brain took over, because I'm old and Irish, and we have that emotional shut-off button. And I went, oh, here it comes. It's starting right away. I can guarantee you within a half an hour, somebody's going to bring up gun control.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're up here now, bringing it up so soon, is we have to have this. If they're going to have this discussion and use this as a tragedy to boost it, then we have to be able to have the discussion to defend it and understand why we have the laws that we have, why it's wrong to think that you can just outlaw. You can outlaw. You know what? You can outlaw drugs. But you know what? People smoke crack every day. People do meth every day. You can outlaw robbery. Guess what? People get robbed every single day. Outlaw burglaries. Outlaw driving under the influence. Outlaw a lot of things, and it still happens.
Let's do this. We had a very in-depth discussion about this in pre-production, and I don't know that it's so much of a defense or a counter political view, but I do have to think. I look at this as an opportunity to educate. Look, people have strong views on gun control, and I disagree with their point of view.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with it from a constitutional standpoint,
right.
As well as a common sense standpoint. But we can have that argument, and that's fine. I respect their point of view. However, I don't think there's a lot of people out there that I want to say a lot of people. I know that there are people out there that do not understand the true intent, and it's pretty easy to do if you read all the source documents, which a lot of people don't today. But we can have a discussion about that, as well as a discussion about where gun control is in full effect, incidents that have happened there. And we're going to go ahead and do that and look at it as, I look at it as an educational opportunity. I don't want to really play defense because I don't want to really get involved in politicizing it. I don't want to really do too much about, putting the left down for their view. I disagree with it, and I'm going to present my opinion on why I disagree with it. But we can have that discussion since they want to bring this tragedy to the forefront. And I have to say, I actually got an email from not the NRA, but from another source that immediately said the left is politicizing this. Send us money so we can stop it now.
Right.
You know what? Hey, that's wrong too. Okay.
Right.
Neither side should be politicizing this. But if we want to use this as an opportunity to have a discussion about guns in America, we can, but let's have a discussion about it instead of we need to take guns right now, or we need to do X, Y, and Z now.
Don't let it be the hot button issue and use that as your fault.
Right. Especially when you have families that are reeling from this. You know what? How about we take a time now to heal as a country? Look, this is something we're talking about. Children that are so young that this is a hit to the country, and let's take a moment to heal, and then we can have a discussion about gun laws or whatever if you want to do that at a later time, but not this same day. It's top of the hour. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to jump into our discussion on gun laws in America. Gun laws, we already touched on it in Colorado as well as other parts of the world.
Well, we'll get back to the break. What? I know you already said that. Phone number is 347-205-9399. We'll be back in a moment.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
Hey folks, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank the men and women of our armed forces, as well as our first responders, law enforcement, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for making this country and our communities a better and safer place. God bless.
Hi, this is Sarah Marie Brenner. We often talk on the Brenner Brief about the fact that there really needs to be an organization to help people at the local level who are interested in running for things like school boards, city council, and other local offices. Well, I think I finally have the solution for you, at least for you women out there. It's called Political Network, POLITIGAL Network.com. Their website's going to be launching mid-August, but they're already on Twitter at PoliticalUSA. I encourage you to follow them and become a member. Their goal is to be the #1 resource for conservative women. So if you love freedom, liberty, the United States of America, and politics, check out politicalnetwork.com or Twitter at PoliticalUSA.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I know I've said it before. Check out our friends at ConservativeOutcry.net, but I really mean it. If you want interesting and exciting political commentary and analysis, that is the place to get it. Different, always spot on, always truthful, never pulling a punch. ConservativeOutcry.net. Tell Rooster to get Bulldog back on and that Sackheads Radio sent you. And also, coming soon, the Sackheads Radio Forum on ConservativeOutcry.net.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I want to talk to you a minute about our friends over at HomefrontHugs.com. They're an amazing organization of volunteers who take their time, effort, and money to take care of our troops overseas as they serve our great nation. HomefrontHugs.com. You can donate, write letters to troops, adopt a troop, you name it, you can do it. Help those wonderful folks who protect our freedoms. Go to HomefrontHugs.com. Tell them Sackheads Radio sent you.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank our men and women in uniform of the armed forces. Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank our men and women. Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank the men and women of our armed forces, as well as our... God.
You going to mention me this time?
Thank you, Sean. You said mention you, right?
Oh.
You totally need to keep that as an outtake.
Now back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads Radio, radiating elegancy and quality.
Thank you for the Cracker Jacks, by the way.
Really? Are you really going to throw that out and offend me?
Yeah, well, that's what I do.
There was another horrible incident at a school.
And we're talking about Newtown, Connecticut, and the reaction of pushing gun control so quickly. So, go ahead.
No, please, by all means.
Just in case anyone's just tuning in, haven't you ever listened to a radio show?
This is our radio show. We don't have to run it like the other radio shows. That's what makes us different. Look, we're not a shill for anybody. Therefore, I'm not going to conform.
Okay, fine. Don't conform.
So there was another incident today too, and you know, I don't know whether this was December 14th or the 15th, Thursday or Friday, because I don't know where the timeline is, but the story came out December 14th at 1:47 a.m., and we got this from LATimes.com. And this happened in Beijing. A man with a knife slashed 22 children and one adult outside of an elementary school in the Henan province in China. And China has had a run of these school knife attacks. And from 2010 to 2011, there have been attacks at schools with edged weapons, knives, a cleaver, hammers, and there have been, March of 2010, March 23rd, 8 school children were murdered with a knife at an elementary school. April of 2010, 16 students and a teacher were wounded with a knife. May of 2010, another 7 children were murdered and 2 adults. 7 children, 2 adults were murdered, another 11 persons injured. This is a cleaver at a kindergarten. August of 2010, 20 children were slashed with a knife. 3 children were killed along with 1 teacher. It was a kindergarten class in China. August of 2011, 8 children, all ages 4 or 5, were injured when an employee at a child care center slashed them with a box cutter. And these incidents go on. September 2011, a young girl, 3 adults were killed with an axe. So
that's weird because they're not very stringent gun controls in China, right?
Actually, what's weird is China's gun laws are among the strictest in the world.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, how is that?
Well, these aren't.
There shouldn't be any incidents then.
Well, there are none. None of what I said are gun incidents.
No, but there shouldn't be any incidents because if the guns are completely outlawed and stringent, then there should be 0 incidents whatsoever.
Of gun violence.
Of any violence like this.
Oh, no. It's gun violence.
Oh.
Yeah. So
these would continue just with a different weapon.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
hang on. For our listeners, we're kind of making a point here.
I'm making a valid point.
Let's talk about China's gun laws for a second. Generally, private citizens cannot possess guns. Gun ownership and possession is restricted to law enforcement, military, paramilitary organizations, and security personnel who are involved with protecting property deemed to have importance to the state. The state meaning China.
So essentially, if the government of China feels like they own that,
correct,
then you're allowed to carry a gun and protect it.
Civilian ownership is restricted to non-individual entities, such as sporting organizations, hunting locations, and so forth.
The Olympic teams.
Right. They can't manufacture weapons there.
Well, they do, like crazy.
They do, along with everything else. And so they can possess firearms, very limited types of firearms for purposes of hunting only, and only at that time. So they have very, very strict gun laws. However, there's been a rash of murders at schools, including this one on the same day as this shooting here at home, where 22 children were slashed, and all of these are with edged weapons. So, look, we bring it up to illustrate that these are horrible crimes.
Right.
People that are bent on mass murder
are going to do it.
Are going to commit mass murder, and I'm illustrating kind of a point here, taking it to another level. People have manufactured weapons of whatever type. Oh, there's another incident in China. I forgot to even read off, where a gentleman, piece of garbage, killed his family with a homemade gun. So evil exists in this world.
Unfortunately.
Mental illness exists in this world.
Yes.
Bad people exist in this world, and always have. There has always been violence in this world, as horrible as it is, unfortunate as it may be. There has always been violence in the world. Man has always fought wars.
Yes.
Man has always manufactured weapons, even to use as tools.
Well, and you brought up a good point a minute ago, Clint, when you were talking about mental illness. In this economy, and I know it's where we live, it's definitely a big issue. A lot of the mental health services that people would receive if they needed to, via like government, if they were on some sort of government subsidy system, are cut viciously with the economy being so bad, and states and local governments getting less money, have less money to do with it.
Actually, there used to be, and I want to say it was late 70s, maybe sooner than that, late 60s, early 70s, where there used to be psychiatric institutions.
Yes.
For the mentally ill.
Right.
They lived in state hospitals.
Yeah.
And
there's been movies about them. Danvers State Hospital, Massachusetts. There was a movie with David Caruso about it.
Okay. That used to be law. That used to be okay. They had a place to go to be taken care of, to be cared for.
And when did California change that? Because I'm assuming that's where it started, as always.
California did change it.
Yeah.
And there was a ruling by, I don't want to give misinformation. I didn't look this up, so we didn't plan the show. I know some about this topic. I don't know if it was a state Supreme Court or the U.S. Supreme Court. I don't know, but there was a court ruling that yes, having people in those hospitals violated their constitutional rights. Therefore, those hospitals were shut down.
Right.
As a result, we had an increase in mentally ill people that were on the street. They're not productive members of society.
Well, and then they started with the group homes on a privatized level and all that stuff,
which is fine.
Right, it's fine.
But
when they're not overloaded.
What they were saying is, yeah, they could not be compelled to live in those institutions.
Right. Which probably around the same time
which
they
we
stopped
can have,
calling prison systems and started calling them Department of Rehabilitation and all that stuff.
I don't. That's.
And I'm sure those two.
And we could have a legitimate debate on the constitutionality of requiring mentally people to live there, or what's benefit for them, or if their family says they should go there and all that other stuff.
Well, and but the thing you hear now too a lot on the news when incidents like this happen is, he was off his meds. You mean the person who has to have meds in order to think clearly and act normally, there's a chance that he didn't take them, and then when he didn't take them, he acted violently and caused harm to people? Weird. So you're basing all that on a person that needs meds to do something a responsible person would do. You're
right, but I think, look, we can have a whole culture discussion here also on
I understand that. I'm not trying to breach.
I mean, look, there's that new video game that came out that is a first-person shooter that you go on a 5-minute killing spree at a school, and then the game ends when you commit suicide.
Weird.
So, yeah. So our culture is screwed up.
No, we're going hell in a handbag.
Yeah. Our culture is screwed up. How that's permissible, look, First Amendment and everything else, but how society permits that and thinks that's okay, and that we have people that actually want to play that type of game is very sick to me. But I wanted to bring something else up. The first documented that I'm able to find, anyways, school massacre in North America, and I was going to say the United States, but it was actually in a colony, a Pennsylvania colony, occurred July 26, 1764. It's the Enoch Brown School Massacre, and there were 4 Delaware Indians that attacked the teacher and students at a schoolhouse near what is now Greencastle, Pennsylvania. So the Indians, Native American, not from across the ocean.
Right.
The teacher, Enoch Brown, and 10 students were massacred. One of the survivors was a child who had been scalped. There were no guns involved in this school massacre.
Mm-hmm.
The rumor is that when these Indians went back with the scalps, one of the elders of the tribe branded them as cowards because they had attacked unarmed children.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Listen, we've had this argument's been going on for a long time. We'll take a call here in a second. We have to change the focus of the argument from blaming the inanimate object to focusing on the person or people that commits this.
I think,
and I know when something like this happens, I think it's part just human nature and guilt on some people's behalf that something has to be blamed. And especially when they commit suicide, you can't be like, well, we're going to blame that person, because you can't blame him. He's already dead. So we got to find something to focus on. We got to focus our anger on something, and they end up going after guns.
Some people just use it. Use it just as a political tool.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to take a little different direction. I'm going to actually throw a couple things out right now.
Okay.
Did you answer the phone?
I did, because I thought we were going to take a call.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Rooster.
Oh, it's Rooster. Hey, Rooster.
What's up?
How you doing, buddy?
It's been a long day.
It has been a long day.
Yeah, I think I last talked to you about an earthquake this morning.
Yeah, you were joking around to see if it rumbled me out of bed, and then
yeah. I've watched TV, probably all day. Just watching Connecticut.
Yeah, it's absolutely
and like
tragic.
You two, I for a first responder to walk into that, they're going to live with that for life.
Yeah, and the other children that were there, and it's just out of control. You said you had a point on it because we have a ton to cover tonight.
Yeah, well, Clint kind of got into it a little bit.
Of course he did. Clint gets into everything.
Evil exists. I don't care if they're sick or not sick. I mean, Ted Bundy, Charlie Manson. But, Ted Bundy and Charlie Manson didn't grow up in some made-up world with headphones and a joystick in their hand where all they do is play Call of Duty all day.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. And when President Obama comes out and says that we need to talk about this, he's right.
Mm-hmm.
We do need to talk about this as a country, not gun laws.
No, the responsibility needs to be pushed back to the people and the families to discuss it and what's right and wrong, and what their children's values are when they're raised.
It goes back to morality.
Yeah. And when we grew up, this didn't happen. Not to this level. Not where somebody dresses up in full body armor and walks into a theater or walks into a school.
Well, and I think part of that's just the tale of the times, because a long time ago you couldn't buy any of that stuff, and now with eBay and all this other stuff, you can.
But now I'm going to say something.
No. I'm talking about just the clothing itself. People focus on the clothing again, just like I said earlier. People are going to focus on the clothing. Oh, well, he was in military-style clothing. So if he was in a clown suit, would it be any different? You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you used a knife, does it make it any less horrid?
Right.
No, it doesn't.
The point I'm trying to get to is I saw that in the news immediately. Oh my God, a man dressed, in black clothing with tactical style vest and blah 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 blah. Okay, because sadly, people just wear that now. If you walk down the street, not normal, but they might be normal. People wear that. It's sold in like the Gap or Old Navy.
Cargo pants.
Yeah, black cargo pants. You can buy them anywhere. So that's not the argument, even though they want to try to make it because it's more scary. Mainstream media loves to do that. Oh, he was in tactical style clothing. Really, he was in black cargo pants and a black shirt, and you're going to call that tactical style clothing? You know what I mean?
Right now, you hit on my article earlier.
I'm sorry?
You hit on my article earlier. If we're going to have the conversation, then have it.
Right, and I agree.
Right. And don't back down.
Hey, Rooster, what conversation would you have?
The one that we're having now, but I'm gonna throw something out there that you're probably gonna jump all over, but hear me out. I know what a 223 round is.
Right.
And I know what type of weapon. In fact, I've used one.
Yeah.
Normally carries the 223 round.
Mm-hmm.
Do
well,
I think?
So.
Yeah, it was a Bushmaster AR-15. It's the same thing.
Right.
Do I think they need those in Connecticut? No, I don't. I don't want to own one.
That's your personal choice.
I'm not that is my personal choice. And I understand that.
Ahead, because this was after the break talk, but we'll jump into it now to start.
Yeah.
You love to do that to us, man.
I do, but
so what would?
But I'm not trying to take anybody's. That's where I'm. We need to get people to not want. Unless you really need that weapon, you don't need that weapon to hunt. That weapon was made for something else. But I'm not going to. I don't want to take away your right to own it. If you want to own it and you really think that you should own that weapon, then own it legally.
So a personal choice, say you don't have it, but you understand if somebody else wants that choice to do it, that's fine. Because
right, but where I'd like to go is for people to say, okay, I live in Washington, D.C., which is where I'm from, or the Washington, D.C. area. I don't need a Bushmaster. That doesn't mean I don't want a weapon to protect my family, but I don't need a Bushmaster.
I've seen the rats in the sewers in Washington, D.C. A Bushmaster might not be a bad choice.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, they grow them pretty big.
I know.
Rooster, you're kind of this is an interesting conversation.
It is.
So would you support legislation that restricts the type of weapons that people can own, or do you think that should not happen and that it's a personal choice and that people may not need it for personal defense, but they choose to own one, so you're okay with that?
More along with the second. I'm not going to. I would support legislation to prevent you or me, as a private citizen in the United States, from purchasing an M60 machine gun.
Okay.
And owning it.
Now
that's different.
What? Now, so you would support legislation that would prohibit that?
An M60? Yes, I would.
An M60. Okay. Why?
Because nobody in this country needs something that fires at 650 shots per minute or whatever.
Okay. So now here's where I think you and I differ. What was the original intent of the Second Amendment?
I know where you're going. It was to give the people the same weaponry that the government has so that the government can't come down upon them. I know exactly where you're going with it.
Absolutely. And look, so that being said as the core argument, because the founders recognized, and look, people can disagree with that or not like that idea or think that that's old and outdated, but this is the Constitution that we live under. This is what the true intent of the Constitution is. And case law that has ruled to the contrary is wrong, because
and I'm a conservative, and you know that.
No, you are. But
this is the conversation that should be had.
It should. So let me finish up by saying these next few paragraphs. You have that is the original intent of the conversation, and that is the purpose of the Second Amendment. Now, the Second Amendment is one of the first 10 amendments that we refer to as the Bill of Rights. Right is something, if we look at, we have to take all of the organic documents of the United States together in order to understand what they all truly mean. And so if we take the Declaration of Independence, which is one of those four, in the opening paragraph, they talk about that our rights come from God, comes from our Creator. The Bill of Rights was put in the Constitution in order to prevent government from infringing upon those specific rights. Therefore, the first 10 amendments, specifically 9, because the 10 talks about states' rights, are truly talking about the rights of the individual citizens, which are God-given. The Second Amendment, being one of those rights, being a God-given right, shall not be infringed, which means the government technically cannot be able to restrict anything, because if God is the one that grants rights, government cannot restrict that right, and that includes the Second Amendment. So I would even go so far as to submit that while I may not personally own a fully automatic weapon, I would go so far as to submit that any gun legislation, even though you may not like it, it may not make you feel good, any gun legislation is illegal under that concept, because government cannot restrict what God gives you. And people may not like that. You may not agree with that concept, but if you look at all of those documents and the true intent behind them, that's exactly what it means, which means if a private citizen wanted to own a military fighter jet and could arm it, that under that Second Amendment original intent, they should be able to do so.
Okay, and I fully agree with everything you said, Bulldog.
No. That was.
But now let's be realistic, though. That's not where we are right now. There are gun laws on the books. They're not going away.
And that's the problem, though. So now, if that's the problem.
That's not what caused this kid to go in and shoot 20 people.
Exactly. And if we had gun laws on the books, this still would have happened.
They did have gun laws on the book. He technically should not have possessed this weapon legally in the state of Connecticut.
Or on school grounds.
Or in his vehicle loaded. Or in his vehicle loaded. So there was a law in place that should have prevented it 3 separate times, and it didn't, because he was he's a scumbag.
Yeah. At
the end of the day. You know, and he's going to rot in hell for this, thank God.
And we just gave a bunch of examples of China where guns, private ownership of guns is illegal, punishable by 3 years in prison all the way up to death, where we have a rash of slashing attacks, hammers, cleavers, where school children are being killed, including the same day as this incident here in the United States where 22 school children were slashed with an edged weapon attack. So
don't get me wrong, Clint. We don't differ by much. We differ by, I don't want to put a fully automatic belt-fed machine gun into somebody's hands. I'm not preventing somebody from purchasing an AR-15.
I understand, and I don't want to necessarily put a fully automatic weapon, belt-fed weapon in somebody's hands either. However, based upon the Constitution that we live under, which has been perverted, they absolutely legally should be able to do so. And the purpose of that was to prevent a government that became too oppressive, that they could stand up, the people could stand up and defend their liberties. And even the founders wrote that needed to happen sometimes. And look, I'm not saying that we're at that point. I'm not saying
every 20 years, right?
Yeah, that's what was said. I don't think we're there. I don't want to be there. I don't want revolution or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. No. So any wingnut out there trying to listen to this and think that I'm some kind of warmonger, want to overthrow the government. Look, I don't. That's not at all.
That's me.
simply talking historical context and where we should be and where we are now is in fact. Look, we have a ton of illegal laws on the books that are being enforced.
Right, but be realistic. If there was legislation put out that simply stated American citizens cannot buy a belt-fed automatic M60 machine gun, period, the majority of the Republican Party would vote for it too.
They would, and that's a mistake because, unfortunately for them, they would be dead wrong in supporting that legislation. Again, I'm not promoting putting that type of ammunition in everybody's hands. I would never own one, but that's not up for government. Cannot restrict a God-given right, which is what the Bill of Rights is, if you look at everything in perspective. And states can't restrict that either. You know, the First Amendment talks about Congress shall pass no law relating to free speech and so forth. It addresses the federal government specifically. The Second Amendment doesn't. Nobody shall touch that. That's a sacred cow, and there was a reason for that.
Now, what we've just given, my job here is done. What we've just given people is the proper way to have a debate.
Absolutely. And look, this discussion is we can have this discussion in a very civil manner.
This discussion needs to be had.
No,
all right, but what's going to happen is we're going to be called racist. We're going to be, they're going to distort the facts. They're going to take it to the gutter.
Yeah, because they cannot win on the merits. See, you and I both have a leg to stand on. We both have history on our side, and we can have a civil discussion very reasonably because we understand our history and kind of the context of things. And
honestly, we're not that far apart.
We're not, but we also even if we were farther apart, I think we both understand human nature and the fact that some people are just freaking evil and are going to do bad things.
But that's when I submit, and we've already blown the break off. But that's when I submit that. What if you want to take a break? All right.
Yeah. Finish your thought.
No. Why don't we take a break? When we come back, I'll pick it up and that'll kind of boost us on. Hey, Rooster, I'm going to throw you on hold. All right.
All right.
All right, we'll be back in a minute with Sackheads Radio.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
Hey folks, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank the men and women of our armed forces, as well as our first responders, law enforcement, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for making this country and our communities a better and safer place. God bless.
Hi, this is Sarah Marie Brenner. You know, we often talk on the Brenner Brief about the fact that there really needs to be an organization to help people at the local level who are interested in running for things like school boards, city council, and other local offices. Well, I think I finally have the solution for you, at least for you women out there. It's called Politigal Network, POLITIGAL Network.com. Their website's going to be launching mid-August, but they're already on Twitter at politicalUSA. I encourage you to follow them and become a member. Their goal is to be the #1 resource for conservative women. So if you love freedom, liberty, the United States of America, and politics, check out politigalnetwork.com or Twitter at politigalusa.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I know I've said it before. Check out our friends at ConservativeOutcry.net, but I really mean it. If you want interesting and exciting political commentary and analysis, that is the place to get it. Different, always spot on, always truthful, never pulling a punch. ConservativeOutcry.net. Tell Rooster to get Bulldog back on and that Sackheads Radio sent you. And also, coming soon, the Sackheads Radio Forum on conservativeoutcry.net.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I want to talk to you a minute about our friends over at homefronthugs.com. They're an amazing organization of volunteers who take their time, effort, and money to take care of our troops overseas as they serve our great nation. Homefronthugs.com. You can donate, write letters to troops, adopt a troop, you name it, you can do it. Help those wonderful folks who protect our freedoms. Go to homefronthugs.com. Tell them Sackheads Radio sent you.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank our men and women in uniform of the armed forces. Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank our men and women. Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank the men and women of our armed forces, as well as our... God.
You going to mention me this time?
Thank you, Sean. You said mention you, right?
Oh.
You totally need to keep that as an outtake.
Now back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads Radio, radiating elegancy and quality.
And we're back from the, before we went to the break, we were talking about the Second Amendment with Rooster, and we may pop him back on here in a minute. Somebody in the chat room, Brandon Stewart, who had a very interesting statement, and he said, everyone is born with the right to speak freely by nature, but not everyone is born with a gun in their hand, and he says that a gun is a mankind-given right. I think under the right to bear...
No, go ahead.
I think under the right to bear arms, it didn't necessarily mean guns particularly. Guns were written... Solely, yes. I think that it was put in the Constitution because they were there, and because it was the most advanced weapon at the time, but it wasn't specified. You had the right to defend yourself, which is a God-given right.
You have a right to bear arms, right, regardless of what that arm is, right, to include firearms for the purposes of self-defense. But if you read all of the historical document about why this right was created,
tyrannous government,
for the purpose of right, self-defense, tyrannous government, defense of the nation, all of those things come into play. And how do you that you have a God-given right to do? Right. And how do you have the best way to do that was through the bearing of arms. So you got to understand the entire historical context. And look, you can take this right back to England, which is where our founders brought it, and where England is now is completely screwed up. And that's a whole different discussion for another show. But that's where that right to arms comes from. It's not that you have a right to own a gun because guns are God made your no. You have a right to defend yourself and to use the tools necessary to do so.
If you're a purist, you could argue that God gave us the ability to invent weapons, including the gun, so you could actually argue that maybe it is a God-given right, because we have the right to use our minds to do that. Some people may argue that.
Nice. I don't know. But the historical record talks about
right. But we're talking strictly the Constitution. So I appreciate the comment. I understand what he's saying, but understand what we're saying is that.
Look, read the writings on it. Really, that's all you have to do. You read the writings on the history of the right to bear arms, specifically the founders' writings on it and the things that they were reading and studying and the debates that were had at the time.
So before we went to the break, we were talking to Rooster, and one of the things he brought up was the M60 machine gun. So imagine a world where guns didn't exist. Other weapons did, and people. So it's today. No guns ever existed. It just hadn't been invented for whatever reason. Okay. You take the he's used that point specifically: belt fed, heavy caliber, blah 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 blah. People are going to find a way to do it. If it's not like a car into a crowd, if you want to use that as my analogy,
a catapult,
a catapult full of oil that's on fire. There's a million different things. So
crossbows.
I understand what he says.
Repeating crossbows.
Yeah, I'm going away from weapons completely. I'm saying, all right, so say somebody wants to commit an act like this. So they drive a car into a crowd.
That's a weapon.
Kill 15 people. Exactly. You want to talk about the M60 belt fed? Fine. They'd take a tractor trailer and drive it into a stadium full of people. Maybe take out 150. You get that thing going, and so it's the action that needs to be held responsible, not the tool implemented.
Correct.
And that's what the left has immediately come out with this and said, oh, my God, guns, 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 guns. And we've talked about this on the show endless times. We talked about it with Andrea and Rooster after the Aurora shooting. Why can we not, as a nation, focus on the people that are the problem? You know, because when they go...
Do you want like a black helicopter explanation? Because I have heard this point of view.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take any explanation at this point.
Here's an explanation, and before everybody freaks out, it's not the one that I necessarily ascribe to, but this is an explanation. A government, a government that wants to rule over its people, what is one of the first things that government does?
Disarms the people.
They disarm the people. They take their means of resistance away. Because if the people do not have a means to resist, the government can be as oppressive as it wants to be.
Yeah.
And that is true throughout history. So a black helicopter explanation would be if the United States government wanted to oppress the people, and there is a case that can be made for that. There is.
Sure.
Look, you look at the power grab that's been going on for years.
Yeah.
Okay. Then one of the things to do that is to disarm the people. If the progressives wanted to gain control of American political, like it seems they're doing a good job of that so far, and they don't want the people to be able to fight back ever or to have another revolution or civil war or whatever, then what do? You disarm the populace. What did the Nazi parties do to the Jewish population?
Disarm them immediately.
They disarmed them. And again, through history, that's one of the first things that does. And the founders recognized that. They were they were very big in the study of history, and they understood that. And people have that God-given right to defend themselves and protect themselves from tyranny. And so that was put in there. That's why they're attacked. That's one reason why they're attacking the weapons. Look, how many things do you read about on the news where you hear somebody was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon and the weapon used was a hammer,
right,
or a screwdriver, or a tire iron,
beer bottle,
yeah,
milk bottle, milk can,
exactly,
a cow.
What?
It's out there. I bet you somewhere it's out there. Someone prove me right.
It's how that tool is implemented, because
let's go back to like a Bugs Bunny thing where they paint somebody red and the angry bull.
if a cop leaves his gun in the holster and defends himself or herself with bare hands or whatever, then that weapon is those bare hands or the knife or whatever was employed. That gun is nothing. It's an accessory.
Takes up space.
Matches earrings.
Well, and this is kind of a good point too. And you see this a lot in the mainstream media. When a guy gets arrested by the police and he dies in custody for one reason or another, immediately police brutality, blah 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 blah, this, that, and the other thing. Oh, they did this, they did that. Well, they didn't shoot him. They probably could have in most cases, depending on what the situation was, I don't know. But when they do shoot them, the first thing is, why'd they have to shoot them? Why couldn't they tried X, Y, and Z? Well, last week when the other department on the other side of the country tried X, Y, and Z, they got lambasted in a public thing.
Yeah.
It's all, and this is the problem with media and a lot on the left is, it doesn't matter what it is, anything they can do to take away power from the people, they just jump on that, and it drives me crazy.
Now, the right does some ridiculous things too, and I've seen some far right bloggers and some articles out there that have said, hey, you know what, gun control is wrong based upon these principles, blah blah blah, and in principle it's good, and then they talk about how the police are not there they really can't protect everybody, which is true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know what? You call 911, you're going to have a response time. Meanwhile, you're getting your butt kicked or stabbed or your family's getting, victimized or whatever the case is, and absolutely true statement. But then some people on the far right make that damn statement where they say, the police are not there to protect or help anyone. If you believe that lie, then you're just as bad. They're there to oppress everybody's rights and take everybody's guns away and everything else. So the far right doesn't like the police because they think that the police want to violate everybody's rights.
The far left don't like them.
And just arrest you and take you to jail and violate your rights, and that's what they think about cops. And then you have the far left that thinks the exact same thing.
Right.
So why do these two sides hate each other? You know what I mean?
I do. I agree with you, and I've seen it
ridiculous.
I've seen it before, and it makes you shake your head.
It does.
Because listen, as much as I think everyone has the right to defend themselves, as much as I dislike big government, as much as I don't want government in my house, I don't want government checking everything I do. We've talked about it before. My open joke is, if they really want to watch me, that's their fault because I'm a very boring person. And if they want to fly a drone over me, they're going to see, a really pasty white guy sunbathing in the backyard.
Naked.
Fat.
With a beer and
Either way, it doesn't matter.
Which is weird.
But on the other hand, I've never looked at a police officer driving down the street and went, he's here to oppress me in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Now, I've had to call the police, car accidents, I've seen something happen, I've called 911, and I can tell you that every single time they've showed up, I've always seen the right thing happen.
Now, have you ever been pulled over?
Yeah.
You gotten a ticket?
No, actually.
Why not?
Because actually, I don't know why not. Because I was very respectful.
Okay.
I immediately acknowledged what I did wrong. I was probably 19, and I was speeding. I was going like 20 miles over the speed.
So you were doing something wrong?
I absolutely was.
Okay. And the officer pulled you over?
Yep. Very nice guy in a small town.
So why did he have to violate your rights? See what I'm getting at?
Yeah, no. I completely understand what you're saying. And actually, I still remember because it scared the heck out of me because I just pictured my insurance going through the roof, and I knew I was wrong. I screwed up. And I'm one of those people that if I make a mistake, I own it. I always have been because if I didn't, my father would have killed me.
Yeah.
And I remember I was scared because I'd never been pulled over before, and it was this dark road. I was out in western Massachusetts. I didn't know where the hell I was, which is part of the reason I was speeding. I know that sounds like it doesn't make sense, but it does. And I got pulled over from a small town cop, and I was like, I'm screwed. I had nothing illegal on me. I had no drug. I didn't know anything. I was dead sober. I was coming back from a girl
at college. He had it in his glove box. He was going to put it in the car. Because cops do that, right?
No. I was taking the girl to college out there, so I'm driving back. But I was freaking out because you're 19. All your friends, and I grew up in Massachusetts, which is a big liberal town. They start throwing things in your ear. Oh, the cops are just out to screw you, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah, the body was in the trunk.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was a pickup truck. It was a wide open bed. So the guy walks up to the window. I remember he was an older cop, and I remember, license, registration. I stopped you. I said, yeah, I was speeding. I said, I'm sorry. I'm lost. I'm trying to get home. It's late. I have to work in the morning. I was being irresponsible, yes, but I didn't mean it. I told him exactly. I owned it. And he ran, went back and boop, boop, put me in the computer or whatever, and probably made fun of my picture with somebody else behind the car that I didn't take notice of. But he came back. He goes, all right, listen, don't speed like that. You're going to get yourself hurt. First thing he said. Mm-hmm. He said these are, windy roads, dark, blah, 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 blah. It gets slick when it gets cold. Gave me directions back to the highway and said, I'm going to follow you back to the highway. Make sure you get there all right. Probably to make sure I didn't do anything else I wasn't supposed to. Doesn't matter. And he did. No ticket, nothing. And I actually left that and went, you know what? My whole perception of law enforcement is bad because I had an 18, 19-year-old kid perspective.
Right. See, I got a ticket, and I was a minor. I think I was 17 years old, 16 years old, and I was speeding, and I got the speeding ticket.
Uh-huh.
But the officer here, I remember exactly. The officer, driver's license, registration, whatever. Stop me for your speed. Your driver's license, registration. I give it to him. Is your address right? I go, yes, sir. I said, I'm sorry. I know I was speeding. He said, okay. Walks back to his car, writes the ticket, comes back up, explains the ticket. Sign here. I sign here. Slow down. Walks back to his car, and that was it.
Here's the difference between me and you. You look like a smartass.
No, but even so, it sucked. I was like,
but that's part of their job.
This sucks. Yeah, I didn't hate him for it. He wasn't trying to oppress me, and I knew in my heart of hearts that I was speeding.
I was wrong.
My friends were in the car. I was an asshole. But
right,
I knew I was wrong, and my friend even goes, "Yeah, you were speeding."
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
What are you gonna do?
I mean, what are you going to do? So
yeah, I always get weirded out when that's the big argument. Oh, they're agents of the government, blah, 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 blah. Well, they are, but they only enforce the law that government passes.
How did we get on this topic? Because we were talking about...
No, but we still are, and we're talking about Second Amendment and gun rights and all that.
And how...
We still are. The problem is when we vote in people that change these laws in such a batshit crazy way, these super progressives, then law enforcement is bound constitutionally in some ways, when they take the oath or whatever they do, to enforce that. So don't hate the cops for taking somebody to jail if you don't agree with it. Get mad at the legislature that does it. And that brings me back to the gun thing.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the metaphor "shoot the messenger."
Right.
And I'm not. Look, don't
twist that up.
Yeah,
because we're a conservative show, so we have to watch what we say.
Exactly. Because they're going to say, "Oh, they say they should shoot."
But it brings me back to this. I am not for gun control. I'm just not one of those people. I think that it should be by the Constitution. You have the right to own whichever weapon you deem necessary.
If I have $1 billion and I want to buy a freaking aircraft carrier.
Right, to land your F-16 on.
Then my F-16 doesn't have a tail hook. That's more built for runway.
Yeah, but you can get that put in.
But structurally, I don't know that it would be.
We'll work on it.
We'll work on it. We can design it.
No, and I totally agree. But if you don't want guns and you're so anti-gun that you're afraid of them, and a lot of people who think they're anti-gun
have fun shooting.
Yeah, and once you educate them, because I own firearms, you own firearms. Once you educate them...
No, I don't. You realize we're being listened to right now by the government, right?
I legally own a firearm. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I don't own any. I'm kidding.
Once you educate them, they're so not afraid, and they're like, "Oh, you mean this only goes when you pull the trigger?" I'm like, "What do you think it did? Just wake up and it's like a random alarm clock? It just starts shooting, And that's the thing. It brings me back to though, go and elect the people whose values closely match yours. And if they're not out there, find one or become that person. And like I said, I disagree with the left and the anti-gun nuts, but that's their right. If they want to change the Constitution, then try to elect somebody to change it.
Well, now let me interesting point. So we already discussed the Bill of Rights and where those rights come from,
right.
And if those rights come from God, government can't take them away. So what if somebody wants to amend the Constitution and take away one of the rights enumerated in the Bill of Rights?
That, my friend, is called a segue.
And we kind of talked about this, and maybe that's why you did that. Very nice. But I would submit, and I know a bunch of people are going to disagree with this, but I would submit that any attempt to take away any right outlined in the Bill of Rights, since it's already been discussed that those rights come from God, that any attempt by government to even through amendment of the Constitution would be illegal in and of itself, based upon the Declaration of Independence and the organic documents that you cannot take a right that God has given you away. It'd be kind of like if the government got together and gutted the First Amendment.
Yeah,
you can't take away somebody's God-given right to speak. You can't take away somebody's God-given right to resist tyranny or to defend themselves through whatever means they can.
Which brings up my point, and I intentionally led you down that path because I knew what your response would be.
Of course you did.
If there are people out there who are trying to do that, isn't that a big red flag?
Yes. But I believe there are people out there that truly either they truly don't believe the dangers that they're putting even themselves in. Because if you're anti-gun and you believe that guns should be eliminated and you believe the Second Amendment of the Constitution should be gutted, because let's say I just believe that it only applies to militia, National Guard, whatever. But then you read and study it, and it's pretty clear what it pertains to, and you got to kind of be honest with yourself about that. If you
that's a tough one.
It is. But if you read that objectively, and you're honest with yourself, and you still think, yeah, but I think that needs to go away because I don't like it, be very careful the path you're going down. Because what happens when somebody wants to take away your First Amendment rights.
Right. Well, no, I like that. I don't want that to go away.
Or your Fourth Amendment rights.
What? Wait a minute.
Or your Fifth Amendment rights.
No.
What happens
I
then?
don't want to incriminate myself.
So be very, very careful, left, what you're doing, and make sure you really understand what it is you're talking about, because you may not like this one topic, but it's a very, very slippery slope. And
Absolutely.
look, we gave this warning when the healthcare law passed.
Oh, yeah.
And when the Supreme Court said, oh, yeah, we can force you through a tax. Okay, now you get a conservative in there, smart asses, and they say, you know what? For national security reasons and for the purposes of preventing violence like this at schools, we are requiring every school teacher to be trained and to own and possess and to use a firearm to rigorously defend their schools and classrooms against violence.
No. That's crazy talk.
Yeah, we are, and if you don't, we're not going to make you to do it under the Commerce Clause, but we're going to tax you on it if you don't.
If you choose not to.
Yeah, guess what precedent you guys just set?
Right.
You get a completely conservative Congress president in there that says, you know what? We're going to require every able-bodied adult between whatever ages to own a firearm and maintain it in their home for national security reasons in case of terrorist event or whatever, and you're required to go to the aid if you see any of these mass killings. And if you don't, you can do that, but you'll be taxed as a penalty.
Right.
Now, okay, and that's what. Look, we pointed this out when the healthcare debate came. So be very careful on how you attack amendments in the Constitution, particularly any one of the first 10.
Yeah. Well, you got me right when I had a Cracker Jack in my mouth.
A what?
I do a Cracker Jack. That's what I do. We're going to take the last break so I can finish chewing this, and we'll be back in a minute. We'll pick up on the Second Amendment talk.
Second Radio.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
Hey folks, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank the men and women of our armed forces, as well as our first responders, law enforcement, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for making this country and our communities a better and safer place. God bless.
Hi, this is Sarah Marie Brenner. You know, we often talk on the Brenner Brief about the fact that there really needs to be an organization to help people at the local level who are interested in running for things like school board, city council, and other local offices. Well, I think I finally have the solution for you, at least for you women out there. It's called Politigal Network, POLITIGAL Network.com. Their website's going to be launching mid-August, but they're already on Twitter at politicalUSA. I encourage you to follow them and become a member. Their goal is to be the #1 resource for conservative women. So if you love freedom, liberty, the United States of America, and politics, check out politigalnetwork.com or Twitter at politicalusa.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I know I've said it before. Check out our friends at ConservativeOutcry.net, but I really mean it. If you want interesting and exciting political commentary and analysis, that is the place to get it. Different, always spot on, always truthful, never pulling a punch. ConservativeOutcry.net. Tell Rooster to get Bulldog back on and that Sackheads Radio sent you. And also, coming soon, the Sackheads Radio Forum on ConservativeOutcry.net.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I want to talk to you a minute about our friends over at HomefrontHugs.com. They're an amazing organization of volunteers who take their time, effort, and money to take care of our troops overseas as they serve our great nation. HomefrontHugs.com. You can donate, write letters to troops, adopt a troop, you name it, you can do it. Help those wonderful folks who protect our freedoms. Go to homefronthugs.com. Tell them Sackheads Radio sent you.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank our men and women in uniform of the armed forces. Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank our men and women. Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank the men and women of our armed forces, as well as our... God.
You going to mention me this time?
Thank you, Sean. You said mention you, right?
Oh.
You totally need to keep that as an outtake.
Now back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads Radio, radiating elegancy and quality.
That's right, folks. Elegancy and quality.
We're like a 1-2 punch.
Which one are you?
Boom, baby. Oh, I'm elegancy.
Okay.
You're the quality of the show. I am an elegant son of a bitch.
Hey, this isn't plugged in. Is this a big deal?
No, you're fine with that.
Okay.
That actually goes in your ear, believe it or not.
My ear. Oh.
That's why we've been having so many short circuits in the studio. Studio number one. So we're here for the last 30 minutes of the show. We are going to change gears a little bit.
By the way, I want to know if anybody is joining my class action lawsuit against Cracker Jack.
Please email clint@sackheadsradio.com.
I don't ever check that email.
I set it up just to auto-forward to me now.
I know. I'm like, oh, did you?
Because I know you don't check anything. So there was other news this week, and we're going to have to shift gears from Newtown because I think, Newton, I think we've expressed our opinions as clearly as possible.
Yeah, enough. Move on.
So Michigan passed the right-to-work law.
People have a right to work?
Well, apparently. Essentially saying that you don't have to be part of a union if you don't want to. What? You actually have a choice? Yeah, you have to actually.
You mean personal choice in a free country?
Yeah, go figured. You know, and I wrote a very poorly written blog about it. And there was a Fox News contributor named Steven Crowder.
So what was the final toll that you had on the
oh, goodness. I believe I had 27, and that included the shooter and the mother.
Okay, yeah, we have 20 children and 6 adults.
Yeah. Okay. So Steven Crowder was there. He was at the American for Prosperity tent. If anyone doesn't know Steven Crowder, he's a comedian. He's a Fox News contributor. But he was asking union workers there, you know, why they were against right to work. Why should people have to join a union? You know, their argument is, oh, we negotiate their wages. Well, they'll just negotiate their wages. You know, we get them benefits. Well, they'll negotiate benefits. And at some point, one of the union members, I believe he had a Teamster jacket, and they've identified him. I don't have his name in front of me. It doesn't matter. Sucker punched him in the face. And there was a skirmish. Crowder kind of retreats back in the Americans for Prosperity tent. Then they attacked the tent and start pulling the tent down. The union employees, or the people there supporting the unions. Inside there were women and men as well. I don't think any of them were really hurt inside, but it got violent. They also flipped over a hot dog cart. Some guy that showed up had been apparently
just some guy.
Who I guess has had his hot dog cart for a long time. He knew the event was going on, trying to make some sales.
Why did they hate the hot dog cart guy?
I don't know.
You know, if he was a minority, then I'm sure. What?
He was. He was a black man.
Why do they hate? Why are they so racist? Why did these racist union thugs deliberately target the hot dog cart of an African American businessman? You're laughing.
I'm laughing because, of course, you do that.
Well, okay. If this was a conservative rally, if this was a Tea Party rally, which there has not been any instance of violence, if this was a Tea Party rally, and somebody got sucker punched, and the hot dog cart of a minority individual had been flipped over, they would be branded as racist, deliberately attacking the minority, blah blah blah, on and on. So I just want to know why and have hate crime charges been filed against these individuals?
Not that I know of yet. I believe they're pursuing assault charges. I know Steven Crowder came out and said in lieu of charges, he'd be happy to go MMA style with a guy in a ring if he was willing to do that.
Who said that?
Steven Crowder, the guy that was attacked.
Is he a badass?
He didn't appear to be one. He just appears to be a normal dude.
He got punched and doubled over and retreated. I mean, I don't think you're going MMA style.
So you have these unions, and I said this in the blog. Unions were started a long time ago to protect the worker from unsafe working conditions and fair wages before labor laws were really in effect. Now you have labor laws. Whether you agree with the fact that there should be labor laws or not, they're in place. It kind of nullifies unions for the most part. Oftentimes in a lot of unions, and there was an article I read where it showed that union bosses were making ridiculous amounts of money, upwards of $200,000 in some states, and they're not even doing the work they're representing at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They're just leading the union, which always drives me crazy. And they're the ones that are pushing and making the decisions for the guy that, if he's a steel worker, maybe he's making $25 an hour. If he's a janitor, he might be making $10 an hour because janitors have unions too. If they're making all this money, they never listen to the people in the union. And they double dip, which kills me because the unions, they go after small business or businesses in general, and they take money from them, extort money from them, in my opinion, but they take money from the business, and then they go to the worker and say, hey, you have to pay us as well. So they're kind of going two ways, and it's essentially like the mob saying, hey, you know what, if you want to have a safe business, you better pay us, because if you don't pay us, something bad could happen. And that's kind of what the union does now. And that's what it's become. It started as a legitimately good idea to protect people in
the Teamsters were great. Hoffa was totally legit.
Well, and it's...
No, you're making a good point. Go ahead.
But I understand the original intent, not Hoffa, the original intent way back when.
I noticed a theme.
What?
Original intent.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, isn't it?
Weird. So the title of the show.
My question was, when was Susan Rice going to come out and blame Hoffa for the violence in Michigan? Because it had to be because of video. It couldn't be because they did something violent. Right?
Right.
It couldn't be because of the Right to Work Act being passed that they were mad about. It had to be...
Well, hang on a second. Let's analyze this. Let's use gun control logic on this.
Oh, good.
So, obviously, they used the union as a vehicle to get out their violent message and to carry out these violent actions. So why not outlaw the unions, and then people wouldn't be violent in when they're doing their protests and so forth, right? Because they wouldn't. There's nothing to protest. If the unions are gone, then you can't protest the right to work legislation, or wages, or strike, or anything like that. So what? Whoa.
What?
Did we just tap into a satellite?
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Go on.
Nice work. So I think if we outlaw the unions, then we take that vehicle away. We eliminate the whole cause for them to assemble and riot, right? I mean, it may hurt a little at first, but what does it really?
Before that, the Michigan House Democrats, this is from their official Twitter feed, quote, "We are going to undo 100 years of labor relations, and there will be blood. We will relive the Battle of the Overpass." And that was, I believe, House Democrat Geis. And that's hashtag Save Michigan.
You know, what happens if a Republican had said there would be blood?
Yeah, that was my next point. And Dana Loesch, who has a conservative radio program, has been on this all week, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but how can you get away with doing that? And saying there will be blood. And that, you know what, it's a common union thing, because I found a video from Massachusetts a couple years ago with union workers, and one of the things, they said almost that exact line at one point when they were getting violent. The whole there will be blood. So is it okay to call for blood when there's a law you don't like being passed? But if there's a law being attacked that you don't like and you call for blood, you're a right-wing lunatic. So if I said right now, you know, guns are under attack, Second Amendment under attack, there will be blood if our guns are taken away.
You realize what soundbite is going to...
I gave that on purpose.
Okay.
And everyone's going to go, oh, my God, he's a lunatic. He's just a gun-toting weirdo. You can't call for blood and violence. That's insane, blah, 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 blah. But when they do it, they're leaders. They're visionaries. They're different. They're leading the people. They're standing up.
You know why? Because these are the same people that have the mass murderers on their shirt, like Che Guevara.
What?
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 Yeah, it's the trend, or Mao Zedong.
Or Miao Zedong.
Whatever the fuck his name is.
No. The picture of the cat that looks like him.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I thought you were correcting me, and I was like, I don't care the name of some communist. So you're going to have to bleep that, by the way. I don't care the name of some communist leader in China.
And just so you know, I got on Rooster this week for his language on the show a few times, and he's pointed out a fact to me. He only swears when you've already swore in the show.
That may be true. I can't dispute that. I have nothing to fact.
So I was giving him hell, and he threw that fact in my face, and I had to bury it.
But hang on a second now. What? Do I swear once like that? Because he is, I don't know.
When he gets going.
He gets going.
He gets going good. But it doesn't matter.
It sounds like Morse code. Seriously, if we were just to bleep it out. You wouldn't hear anything that...
But the seal's broken, so what difference does it make? The rating is what it's going to be.
Because it's our seal to break. I don't go on your blog and start throwing bombs out even after you do.
So
I need a belt-fed machine gun.
So it's just insanity to me that this is acceptable, and there are people already defending their actions.
Now hang on.
Hold on, wait.
For our listeners that couldn't see, when you just said, "I can't believe this is acceptable," you held up a bag of Cracker Jacks.
I did, and but there's already somebody, I think, in the New York Times already came out defending what the guy who attacked Crowder as, well, you know, the video was edited because it shows him getting up off the ground. Essentially trying to suggest that this Crowder guy knocked him down before the video started.
Well, you know, tensions are high, and it's a real emotional issue for some people. I like that one.
Yeah. So it's acceptable.
Oh, so it's okay then.
So when I have a bad day at work, I can just go somewhere and start beating on people, and that's fine because my tension was high.
Hey, don't you lefties like that whole anti-bullying campaign thing? Don't you despise violence, hate war, turn your back, turn the other cheek, let somebody else protect you? It's not your problem.
Right.
Isn't that your guys' kind of thing? Hey, if somebody punches you at school, go tell a teacher. Don't defend yourself.
Right. Don't defend yourself.
Yeah.
You're a kid.
Gosh.
Kids,
everybody gets suspended.
If your parents are crazy enough to let you listen, kids, I'm going to tell you right now, don't defend yourself because you will be kicked out of school, and the person that you're defending yourself with will probably be given an award. They'll pass for the year. They'll get free lunch. And
your parents will get sued.
And your parents are going to get sued anyhow. Right. That's a given.
Because
they like Cracker Jacks.
Right.
But at what point do people... I was watching the union thing, and I'm like, this is insanity. I understand they're upset about their unions. And union people are entrenched. Usually when you talk to union people, like, they're just completely entrenched in it. There's no other way but the union way, blah, 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 blah.
You know what? They're like, it's like a cult.
A little bit. Don't question anything.
It's like Jim Jones and a cult.
It's weird to me. And
I drink this Kool-Aid, everything will be fine.
I brought this up before. I was listening to another radio show a long time ago, and there was a guy called in from Florida, and he was a steel worker, a sheet metal worker, and he said he was one of those guys that was entrenched in the union. The union was everything. He goes, then I got laid off, and the union wasn't anywhere to be there. And eventually I was like, well, there's really no work, and you're not paying your dues, so you are kind of part of the union, but you're like an inactive thing. And he's like, wait a minute, I paid you 5 years of union dues.
Yep.
Where are you to protect me now? And that happened a few times, and finally he woke up, and he tallied it up over his 15 years, and he paid some exorbitant amount of money to union dues. He said, they've never done anything for me. I could have negotiated everything they negotiated. Half the stuff I wanted them to do wasn't listened to because the people that run the unions do what's right for the people that run the unions. They don't do what's right for anybody else. So the union thuggery has been around for goodness knows how long.
Let's talk about, what about public employee unions?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of an interesting thing also, because those employees are paid with public funds. And those public funds are a lot of times taken out of the paychecks directly in the form of those union dues.
Right.
And so those state funds, they go into those union dues, and now those funds are used to give in its contribution.
Well, I told you this before. I'm in a state employees union work just because I pay my taxes. so I pay for the union dues. So vis-a-vis, I technically have union protection, you would think.
You would think. I guess the other article of that is, well, once the state
right, the dollar is that person's dollar.
Yeah, right. it's their dollar, and then they turn around it. But the point is, weren't the unions meant to protect the people from the corporations?
Yeah, the unsafe working conditions.
Not the government.
Right.
Because the government doesn't.
Right. And this law in Michigan, they're selling it as it's taking away union power.
Good. Good.
But even if you want to sell it, no, stop.
Take away union power.
Even if you want to sell it that way, it doesn't say that to me. What it says is, if you don't want to be part of a union, you don't have to be forced into it, and you can still do a job that's supposed to be union. And they're like, well, now everyone's going to go do that. Well, if your union was so amazing and it does so much, people are going to choose to still be part of that union. And if they don't, that's their choice.
Yep.
And this is still America, Jack. You still have choices. And when
you talking to the cracker, Jack?
Well, that was convenient. When you take away that choice, you take away freedom, and you take away that person's right to work. Hey, you know what? I don't like the union because they do nothing but support Democrats. I think that they take more money than they make for us. They've hurt me this way. They've hurt me that way. I don't want any part of it. Well, you're a scab. No, I'm just somebody who's not a sheep, so to speak. I'm not just following. I'm doing what's right for me and my family. What's wrong with that?
I'm standing up for my principles.
Right. What is wrong with that? Oh, and by the way, Republicans and the fiscal cliff thing, pay attention to that statement, standing up for my principles. I'm not going to go on the fiscal cliff rant right now, but just pay attention to that statement. When did it become okay to belittle people for having their own principles?
When it didn't fit with your agenda.
And why haven't we as a people stood up and said, hey, you know what? What the hell's wrong with you?
Because we're a nation of freaking cowards.
Well,
that's
because
why.
mainstream media...
because we're a nation of cowards.
But mainstream media tells us what it's okay to be outraged, not us particularly, what it's okay to be outraged about and what it's okay not to be outraged about.
Look,
after the government decides...
I will blame mainstream media to a certain point, okay? Because they have an agenda, no question about it. But the bottom line is, we are a nation of cowards. Okay, if we were not a nation of cowards, I'm going to take this right back to the gun control debate. If you want to disarm the populace because it's easier to not stand up and do the right thing, not confront that evil, and to stop the action, then you are a coward. I'm sorry, the right thing to do would be to arm the population, and when you see evil taking place, when you see innocent, defenseless people being massacred, stand up, go after that threat, and stop that aggressor. Let that person come after you instead of the 5-year-old child. Why don't you stand up and take action, and maybe you can do something, because you call 911, you're going to have a response time. People are dying right now, but we're not. People are not willing to do that. How many times are there, and there's videos of this all over the internet, how many times do people see a group of people beating the crap out of somebody, and they're sitting there videotaping it on their cell phones and laughing? Or the police want a statement about something, and people say, I just don't want to get involved. Because we're a nation of cowards. That is my absolute opinion.
It brings me to my next story. So I had an interview, as anyone who listened last week knows that I'm facing a layoff. Thanks, economy. Either way, and I had an interview.
How could you be laid off? Obama got reelected.
Let's not go down that road. I know it should be fixed. It should all be fixed. Everything's fine again. But during an interview, we started talking about morals, and I don't know how we got to that discussion. We just did. And
yes, you do. It's just not important to the story.
It's not important to the story. But essentially, I said, I'm the type of person that if I'm walking down the street and I see somebody being attacked or brutalized, or I see a woman whose male half is beaten up, or what have you, some sort of incident where somebody's becoming a victim.
God, you're sexist. Why does the woman have to be getting beat by the man?
Thank you.
Really?
Then I am the type of person that I will stand in.
And go whoop that dude up.
Or at least, if I can't whoop him, because, hey, listen, there's always somebody bigger and stronger around.
Stronger, I don't know about bigger.
I'm going to take enough punches to the face that maybe that woman's going to be able to escape.
Right.
But I feel that that's my duty as a human being, to not let somebody else.
As a good citizen.
Right. as a human. It doesn't matter if I'm in this country or another country or wherever. I think that's just the right thing to do as a human being. And the person looked at me like I was insane. And just like, why would you even think about doing that?
And that's the problem with our society.
And I said, the difference between me and you is I was raised with a different set of values. My parents raised me that way.
Mm-hmm.
They raised me to care. Even if I don't know that person, I care enough for their well-being that I'm not going to let them be beaten into a pulp and just stand there idly by and go, oh, my goodness, this is just terrible. No, I may not win. I may not make the difference. He may knock me out in one punch if he lands it right and then go back. But at least I know that when I look in the mirror, I try to do the right thing.
Well, yeah, and you'd only be able to look through the mirror through that slit in your eye since it was so swollen.
Maybe I'll look skinnier.
Shut. And that's a societal issue. And I firmly believe if members of the public, if people in society were willing to stand up for what was right and to take action when they see this type of behavior occur, any type of violent behavior, and have it absolutely not be tolerated, I firmly believe you would see a decrease in this. You wouldn't have the people beating the crap out of each other on the street corner with everybody standing by or walking by or not wanting to be involved.
Right, it's not my problem. That's our problem with this country. It's not my problem. Not my problem. Not my problem.
The police are there to protect me.
Right.
Everybody, somebody else is there to protect me.
Until either they're a victim of something, then the police are never around. Police are around. You never see the cops. There's never any cops here. Or they get arrested. You cops just arrest everybody all the time for no reason. That's the society. It's always
somebody else's fault.
Somebody else, or it's not my problem. And that's the problem I have with society right now. Now, everyone who has listened to the show before knows that we're in ideological war with Chris Matthews. And
we are.
And any chance I get to prove what a bumbling buffoon he is.
By the way, our sound guy is. He's
working on it.
Okay.
He's working on it.
Okay.
He's under a lot of pressure.
Okay, we all are.
Sacco's under a lot of pressure, and I'll tell you why.
We all are.
Yeah, except for you do the show with your mouth and your mind, and we do a lot of research outside the studio. From Sacco's point of view, he gets everything set up. The sound is good. The equipment's nice. He gets us ready to go, and then he's going to work on other stuff. And then we come in like two chimpanzees flinging poo and destroy everything, and he has to constantly fix it. So go easy on him. He's dealing with two morons on a regular basis.
He is, but you know what? Hang on. While we're doing research, okay. He
has it ready when we sit down. Everything's ready to go when we sit down. How can you blame him?
I'm not blaming him for that.
So our good friend Chris Matthews,
do my song,
who we hate, and he hates us, and I know he hates us.
No, he does. He hates us. He told us, I think, didn't he?
We've called him out on it. I think so. We've called him out on a couple of his little stupid rants, and this is another one. This happened at the day of the union violence a couple days ago. These are two representatives from Americans for Prosperity discussing what had happened with their tent and everything. And I'm just going to play it from MSNBC Hardball with Chris Matthews.
Let me go to Mr. Hagerstrom. Same tough questions. Why are Republicans and your organization against unions? Because this is pretty much a union gutting operation. You would like to say you work for the Koch brothers. They don't like unions. Why are you working for them?
You know, I work for Americans for Prosperity. This is not about the Koch brothers. This is about freedom for...
Who's paying your salary?
I work for Americans for Prosperity. We're a nonprofit.
Who's paying your salary?
Unions are Americans for Prosperity. I came here to talk about the policy, and this is about freedom. This is about economic liberty.
Who's paying your salary to do what you're doing right now?
I just told you, Americans for Prosperity. We're a 501c4, and we've been advocating... I'm sorry?
Who's paying your... to do this today?
I just told you, Americans for Prosperity. We're a nonprofit. We're for...
Okay,
I just told you what the answer is. I came here to talk about policy.
I know,
this is about freedom for workers. My family were union workers, and they had to leave the state a long time ago.
So you're not, just to make this clear, Mr. King, you're the president of an international union. You were elected, and you serve, and you get paid by the union. I understand that. I just want to understand with this other fellow how he finances his being here today, because there's a real question whether you're a front for the owners, for the people that really don't like unions. And you tell me you won't answer the question who's paying your salary. That's all I want to know. Who's paying you? Who's paying you?
We have over 3,000 donors here in this. Americans for Prosperity. I told you we're a nonprofit, just like the Red Cross, just like any other nonprofit.
One last question. I know the funding relationship of Mr. King. As I said, he was elected president of an international union that's got a good reputation. Your organization, I want to know more about. Again, for the 5th time, who pays your salary?
I told you I work for Americans for Prosperity, and just like the Red Cross, we have over 3,000 donors. I told you, Americans for Prosperity.
And who's that?
That's a nonprofit. We have over 87,000 activists.
The Koch brothers behind you.
We have over 87,000. We have over 87,000 members here in Michigan.
I think you guys are working for the Koch brothers, and you're not denying it, so I can't understand what we're talking about. You're talking for them, and I'm talking to you, and you won't tell me who you work for.
Huh? Now, he has a nationally syndicated show.
How?
I don't know.
How? Seriously, I don't get this. Okay, who do you? I know he works for some union, and that's the point of view he's representing. But so what if he works for the Koch brothers and he's representing the anti-union point of view? If that's the case, and I'm not saying that is, if that's the case, you have a union president representing them. If you have somebody who doesn't like the unions, that's called dialogue, you dumbass.
And how much money did the unions put into the last election? Don't act like the unions are these poor people that have $0.
Yeah.
The unions dumped billions, I believe, into the last election from start to finish, from the very, very beginning.
Exactly. If you're going to talk policy, talk policy. But he answered the question, who pays your salary? Right. He answered, this organization pays my salary.
AmericasProsperity.org.
Yeah, that's who pays my salary. Who pays the union guy? Really?
Yeah.
Who pays the union guy's salary? All the members.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what he's looking for?
Yeah. That's what he's looking. Because here's how it is. Even though, like the gentleman said, we have 87,000 activists that are part of our organization. And Chris Matthews ignored that completely.
Of course he did.
The union guy, that's the people. All the people are paying into that. The unions and of the workers and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but you're just the Koch brothers. They're the only people that find you. I wish the guy from America's Prosperity go, you know what, they are a major contributor, but we have 87,000 other people beside them that contribute as well. So that should tell you that there's a large part of society that is against unions. It's not just he said, and I counted 13 times that he said, who pays your salary?
He said 5th time, though, I think is what he said.
But he can't count because he's a moron.
He is a moron.
That is... I get so frustrated, but that tells you, and we know this anyway, but it tells you whose pocket they're in. Mainstream media, and especially him. You know,
I don't consider MSNBC mainstream.
I wish the guy from America's Prosperity turned around and went, whose ass do you kiss? Whose ass do you kiss? No, Obama's. Whose ass do you kiss? Say it. Obama's. Yeah, just say it. You kiss his ass.
Who gives you a thrill up your leg?
Right. Obama. Right.
Yeah.
But he can't. He can't do it.
What is the Constitution? What is the... No.
Who pays your salary?
This is my show.
Who pays your salary?
You know what? I think you had a great question. I don't know how he gets the show.
I don't know.
MSNBC should hire us.
They would never.
They
could put us on between Hardball and Maddow.
You know what? How awesome would it be?
They could call our show Lane Change with Sackheads Radio or something to that effect.
No, I like this better. How's about combine Hardball with us and call us Hard Sack? Or Sackball.
So
you know what? Put us on with Chris Matt.
His head would explode. You know what, though? He'd do the same thing he does to everyone else. I know they do this. If you listen to the show, if you listen in stereo, you have a really good sound system. Pay attention to this because I've done it before. As he starts to lose an argument, his microphone goes up.
Yeah.
And the person he's arguing with goes
down.
And then he starts yelling.
Yep.
And that's exactly, I don't care what, take me to task on that. Prove me wrong. I am 100% right. And I know he does that, and that's just absolutely pathetic. But
he's a coward.
But people watch, and they swallow it up.
He's a coward. But how many people really? His ratings are... I think his ratings are worse than ours.
And he's on a primetime politics channel.
He is.
The president even mentioned him in a speech during the election.
So, of course, because he gets a thrill.
Right, exactly. Of course, that night he said, I think I gave Chris Matthews a stroke, but that's not the point.
Which is pretty funny.
No, that whole line
that was fun.
Very hysterical.
Yeah.
But It drives me crazy. If you're going to have an opinion show, I understand. Look, let people on, let them speak their part, have intelligent dialogue, and disagree with them. And
he can't do that,
I know,
because as soon as he does that, he is setting himself up to lose the argument.
Because he's a moron.
Because he's a moron. And he's wrong.
He's totally wrong.
I mean, that's not... I think he knows that. If you're wrong, you can't win a debate, then you have to resort to yelling and screaming like the left does. Listen, I'm tired.
Yeah. It's been a fun show.
Well,
the first part of it wasn't fun.
It's been a somber show. It's been a very good show. I want to thank Rooster
for calling in. Again, our hearts and prayers go out to the
family members of
Newtown,
victims
Connecticut,
and so forth. Thanks for everybody who was blogging with us tonight.
Absolutely. Everyone who was in the chat room, everyone who was on Twitter. We will see you next Friday night at the same time.
Potentially.
One of us will come in the victor, and the other one will come in the loser.
Yeah.
Or Patriots.
Or one of us will come in, period.
Right, and the other one just won't be around.
The other one just won't be here because...
Or maybe never again. Just kidding. Check us out, sackheadsradio.com. We're on Twitter at Sackheads. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
For being here, and thank you for the coffee. We'll see you guys next week, and I'm just going to talk for another second because I don't have... There it is! Yay!